All right, I think we've got most everybody logged in. We had a really large group that was registered for today, so I see a few more popping in. But we'll go ahead and get started with some introductions, and we'll start taking you through the world of CMAs. First and foremost, my name is Colleen DeLang. I have been a realtor now myself for 22 years. I am also full-time staff at my role source. And basically, just a little housekeeping before we get started is on the right-hand side of your screen, you will see an orange arrow. If you expand that arrow out, that will give you a place that you can ask questions throughout the demonstration today. So if you get a little lost or if you need to see something again, just simply click on that orange arrow. It'll expand the GoToWebinar panel, and then from there you can go ahead and simply type your questions in. Today I'm going to take you through Cloud CMA. I'm going to show you some other quick and easy CMA options as far as CMA reports. We've got like 2 more people logging in, and I'm also going to show you where the handouts are so that you'll have some cheat sheets that you can refer to. I know a lot of times I'll take these classes and then I'll say, oh my gosh, where did they start again? So the good news is I'm going to leave you with some great resources too. We are recording this class, so after the class, you'll receive a link that will show you the YouTube channel where you can watch this. It will be uploaded probably this evening. And so if you miss anything or you just want to save that link so you can go back to it for future, feel free to do that. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to turn my fuzzy hair off so that you can actually see the screen, and we'll start off talking about Cloud CMA, and that's really where we're going to spend most of our time today. I'm also going to, again, show you how to come up with those comps. I'll show you how to use the reports so you can do a quick and easy side-by-side comparison if you're looking for something a little bit more like that. But really, I'm a huge fan of Cloud CMA because it makes a very wowing presentation. It also has a new live version, which actually does a lot of calculations as far as what is the difference in square footage from the house you're about to list, maybe to the comps that you selected. Is there another bathroom, another bedroom? I'm also going to show you how, if you're using the new live CMA, you can actually pull comps in on the fly. So let's say you're at a seller's kitchen table and they say, but Colleen, does Joe Schmagegi on the corner, I don't see his listing in the comps that you selected. You can actually pull those things in on the fly, and you can even host it via a streaming service. So if your seller is, let's say, out of state, you can actually even present it via Zoom or several different options. But basically, the reason I use Cloud is because it gives you that wowing presentation, and it's very, very streamlined and simple. So this happens to be a home that I recently closed, and I want to have more than just the basic CMA. I want to bring in those other factors that give that seller all of the information. As far as I want to bring in things like the BS&A record. I want to bring in this particular client actually bought this home with me a few years earlier. So I brought in the sale record from when they purchased it from the builder. I brought in the things like the BS&A record, if there is an outstanding water bill. Many of the BS&A records now show that. I just had an investor who found out that on his particular property, there was $700 in the rear for the water bill. So being able to pull all of that up and bring it into your CMA so that we can actually discuss that as we're doing the net out, or if there's outstanding taxes, property taxes that haven't been paid, you're going to be able to see all of that in here, and that makes a big difference. It's also very easy to bring in things like market stats. In this particular market, I was able to show them that, oh, look, we're down 25% in inventory, as you can see here, and look what it's doing to our average sales price, or bringing up our average sales price. So really easy ways to bring in these outside pieces. When you're stacking up the comps, you can choose whether you want to do them side by side, or if you want to bring in all the interior photos and all of the details. So it's just how long do you want your report to be. It will also give you some pre-written marketing pages that you can choose to use. I like this because it's showing that, and in this market, a lot of times you're seeing that houses are selling for 103% of their listing price. And because obviously we're seeing a lot of, offers that are still over asking in this competitive market where there's just not enough inventory. So the good news is a lot of this is already written for you. It's really just setting it up so that you can use the pages that you choose. Now, some people really like the long CMA as far as they may have their client references in there. They may have, if they work for, let's say they paint homes for Habitat for Humanity, a lot of times they'll have their resume and all about themselves in here. So you can make this as detailed as you want, or you can skinny it down and make it as short and sweet as you want. I'm kind of a meat and potatoes girl, so I usually just put in the comps, and a little bit of information about myself, a cover page, but that's really it. I want them to be able to see more about their property, the BS&A record, the previous sale, things like that. Those are the marketing pages that I want to bring in. So once you're in Cloud CMA, and Cloud is pretty easy to navigate, but there's also the view live option, which we're going to cover, and that's going to allow you again to do a more interactive CMA. Of course, you can email your CMA, you can view it as a PDF, you can actually create a link and send it out. So there's a whole bunch that you can do from Cloud CMA. But it also has things like a lead generation capture piece, which I'm a huge fan of. So we're going to talk about that today too. So let's go ahead and get started on how do you make Cloud easy? How do you actually get the comps and bring them into Cloud? And I have to say, as an agent, I've used 7 different CMA programs now over the years. I use Toolkit, I use CMA Edge, I've used many of them, and I do think that Cloud makes the best presentation and is by far the easiest to use, because all you have to do is search for your comps in Paragon. And really, that's the hardest part, right? Is finding the comps for your subject property. So if you're new, and I know we have a couple new people on the webinar today, if you're new, it's really just making sure that you're stacking up apples with apples, right? You're trying to find a comparative property, but you're also wanting to use appraiser information. You want to make sure you know what it's going to appraise for. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that you're going to want to use when you're trying to find your comps. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to obviously search for our comps. We're going to select the search in Paragon. And then from here, it's just picking what type of class are you searching. If you're listing vacant land, obviously that's what you're going to look for. But we're going to make it nice and easy today. We're going to search by residential home or single family home. And then really it's just going into Paragon and filling out the information that is going to be like your subject property. So for instance, I'm kind of an old Floyd Wickman fan. I don't know if anybody knows who Floyd Wickman is on this webinar, but he always said, of course, the closed numbers are the most important, but they're already going to want to know, what is Joe on the corner? Do you know what he's listed for? So I've always included closed because that's the most important. That's where we're actually getting our number. But I've always included the actives and the pendings as well, because obviously if something's active or pending around them, they probably already know what that home is listed for, and they want to know you know it as well. Another trick, and you don't have to do it so much in this market, but if the market should turn and we have an oversupply of inventory, a lot of times it's getting them to be realistic about their price. So telling that homeowner, I know you think that it's worth $50,000 more because you're emotionally attached to it, but that's really not what the buyer is going to pay for the home. So sometimes when you're walking into those listing appointments, you're basically being interviewed, right? And your opinion isn't as helpful as actually seeing fact. So one of the things that Floyd Wickman taught me many, many years ago is to include something like one overpriced expired in your CMA. And maybe something that's been on the market for a really long time and has had several price adjustments. If you have one overpriced expired that's been on the market, let's say 400 days, and has had 3 price adjustments, that's a great thing to have, whether you keep it in your CMA or you just keep it maybe in your briefcase. Because when they say, well, I know, Colleen, you're saying this is worth $350, but we were thinking we'd like to start at $400, and you can pull out that overpriced expired. That is a really, really helpful tool in getting them to be realistic. When you say something like, I know, Mr. Schmagegi, that you are thinking that way, and Joe down the street, he felt the exact same way you did. Look, he's been on the market 400 days and he's adjusted his price 3 times, and now his listing is stale. Sometimes it's actually just showing them that on paper. Now, when you're actually coming up with the number for your comparable, another thing you want to take advantage of is, instead of using these calendar dates, which I hate, I just use the 6 months back from the drop down, because that's really what an appraiser is going to look at in most markets. They're going to be looking 6 months back. They're never going to go outside a year because the market changes too frequently. So I'm going to do exactly what an appraiser is going to do in our example today. I'm just going to use 6 months back. Now, of course, I want to start adding in my criteria. I want to make sure that I'm choosing for sale because I want to come up with that number. But what you're going to see is I'm not putting anything in under the price. I'm not putting anything in the county, the area, the address, and there's a reason. I'm really trying to determine what the price is going to be, right? But I also want to stay approximately a mile from the subject property. I don't want to look 5 or 10 miles out. Now, here I gotta warn you, if you are working out in like a rural area, sometimes you do have to expand the criteria. So let's say if you're working, in a lot of farmland, it's sometimes very hard to find a comparable home. You might have to go out 5 miles, but you want to start your circle with these parameters and then work out from there. And so we'll cover that, and I'll show you some good examples of that too. So as we're going down, obviously structure style, that's going to be another important. If you are listing a little brick ranch, really the comps that you're trying to find are for other brick ranches in that area. So I'm going to say that I am this home that we're listing it's really 3 bedrooms. There's not a lot on the market right now over here, so I'm going to do 3 to 4 bedrooms. Obviously, bathrooms would be something that you'd want to fill in. If it's on a basement, then I want to make sure that I'm looking for homes on a basement. Generally, a slab home or a home on a crawl, and I say generally, there are exceptions like waterfront, things like that, are going to be worth less in many cases than if they're built on a basement. So you want to fill in as much information as you can. Obviously, does it have a garage? How many car garage? So these are more and more information that you're adding in so that you're dwindling down and getting those right comparables. The next thing is square footage. So a lot of people will say, well, how do you figure out square footage? And most every appraiser I've ever talked to, and again, if you're working in a more rural area, sometimes you have to expand this a little bit, but most every appraiser will use the 20% square footage rule. So now you're probably thinking, well, how do you know what that is? I mean, how do you know what your comparable property, what is the square footage? Maybe you're just starting to talk to that seller. Well, really, to start doing your homework, what I recommend is going to the BS&A record, and I always check BS&A and Realist, and there's a reason. Sometimes you'll find conflicting information, and sometimes you will also find information on one that's not available in the other. So I'm going to use my trusty example here, a house that I recently closed in Sterling Heights. So we're going to look at our 41539 Wessel Drive here. So I can see the property has been listed before. It's been closed. It's a closed property. So I want to make sure that I'm saving this record so I can include it in my CMA. But if I really want to start doing my homework on this particular listing, what I want to do is I want to check the BS&A record, which, by the way, if you are a My Real Source member, you get the BS&A records for Macomb County, Genesee County. You also get the BS&A records for all 5 of the gross points at no cost. So there are certain times that if you go into the BS&A record, it may ask you for $1.50 or $2 because that's what the municipality charges for that property information. But if you're a My Real Source member, those fees are waived. Again, for any of the gross points, Genesee County or Macomb County, and down the way, we are also going to be adding St. Clair too. So what I like to do is I go right back to the old property record, and there is a little, and I apologize, it kind of looks like a trash can. Brian, our chief technical officer, he actually took a government pillar and tried to stick it on the button here. And unfortunately, it's a little more like a trash can than a government pillar. So So I apologize for that. But if you click on that trash can looking icon, it's really taking you to the property information for that specific listing. So I don't have to log into BSNA. I don't have to pay the $1.50 or $2. And what it's doing is it's taking me directly into that property record within BSNA. So I don't have to go anywhere else. I just click on that button and it's going to take me in. Now here's your first time-saving tip and technique. If you have not been to the home before, let's say that this is going to be your first time going to see the home and you want to do a one-stop listing. You want to have everything prepared and sign the papers right while you're there. If you don't have a photo, a lot of times it will just put that Google overhead shot on your front. It just doesn't look that nice. So here's what I recommend. Go to the BSNA record and click on that front photo. Now, of course, you don't want to do this with MLS photos because we have rules about that. They're watermarked, but this is actually a public record photo. So what I recommend doing is right-clicking on, so you're going to open up that photo, and then what you want to do is you want to right-click and save that image because we're going to actually make that the front cover. I'm just going to call this front photo of our CMA. So I want to have that image where I can just open it up. It looks really nice. You can crop it, but really the goal is I want to have that as my front image right on the CMA so that it doesn't look like I've never been there. It looks like I really put some time and effort in it because I've now got the front elevation of that home as my photo. The other things too to remember is when you're looking for your square footage, I can see right here it's 1361. That's what we wanted to know because we want to use that 20% rule when we're figuring out our square footage range. But this is also where you're going to find out, does it how many bedrooms does it have? How many baths does it have? What's the acreage? All of this is actually recorded right through the municipality. A lot of times if property taxes have not been paid, if you click on the tax information, you can see if something's due. I actually had a client we were supposed to close and they had some unpaid taxes. We use the live BSNA server. And what that means is they actually went in the morning and paid the unpaid property taxes that were outstanding. And thankfully, because we use the live BSNA server, in the afternoon, it was actually showing on the BSNA record that they had been paid. So we were able to close after all. So the idea is, or if there's assessments or outstanding water bills, a lot of times you'll see all of that right here. And the good news is, I had a client recently in, gosh, I think it was Sterling Heights as well. She had a bunch of unpaid property taxes. Turned out she'd never filed her homestead exemption. So we actually went down to the city, we spoke with them, and they waived a lot of those fees because it wasn't homesteaded, and it should have been. So long story short, you can actually figure that out here and include it on your net sheet so there's no surprises for that seller. Those are all things obviously you want to take into account. And you can see there's a lot here now. Matter of fact, in the next 2 years, all the municipalities are required to have their records online. So you're going to see more and more information for all of the counties. Now, it used to be a long time ago when I got my license that you had to drive to the municipality office. Some of them, like out, I think it was Brownstown, they literally had like 2 days a week. They were open from 12 to 2, and you drove to this person's basement basically to get a field sheet. So thankfully, it's getting a lot easier to actually get the information and get it online. So, and as you can see, there's, permits that have been pulled. All these different items are usually listed here. So what I recommend doing is saving this. Because when you are creating that great CMA and you want to show that homeowner all the work that you've done, what I do is I generally will print this as a PDF. And then in doing that, I will pull it right into my cloud CMA. So I actually go to the print button right here. And I usually just print it as a PDF. And I save it to my desktop, and then I can quickly pull it in right into my CMA. So we're going to call this CMA example 1. Okay, so you get the general idea. The other thing you want to do is, as I mentioned, you also have access to the entire state through Realist. And sometimes you'll find really helpful information by looking at that property record in Realist. You'll see if it's maybe gone into foreclosure. if they've refied recently. A lot of that information is only available in Realist. Now you'll find Realist, again, just like we found it BS&A right on the property record, you'll find Realist too. I'm clicking on that Realist record, and it's telling me, okay, who's the property owner. Again, you're going to find information on square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, assessments, taxes. This also gives you that it was built on a basement, how many full baths, how many baths. So a lot of that information is the same. But once in a while, you will actually see that it has MLS versus tax. So in this particular example, right next door to this home, it was a single family ranch, but the man owned a company to do dormers. So he actually added a second floor without ever pulling a permit. Unfortunately, the municipality then had it as 1 story, but the MLS had it listed as a 2-story. So again, a lot of times you'll see those discrepancies and you'll see tax says one thing, MLS says another. It's just a good kind of a red flag to you, the agent, that you want to ask that question. Okay, why does it say 1 story here and 2 stories somewhere else? So it's kind of one of those things you just want to pay attention to. Or you'll find it didn't have a garage, but then the MLS said it did, and it may be that they added a garage too. So sometimes it'll just give you kind of a red flag to, hey, I need to ask that question. Down here, it'll show you again the mortgage history, how this person bought it. When we closed, they bought it on an FHA. This was the homeowner. This was the mortgage lender. Again, if it's gone into foreclosure, you'll see that. If it's been passed through a quick claim deed, a lot of that information is recorded here. I do the same thing with Realist. I print this as a PDF. And the reason I do that is because I want to have that right in my CMA. So if they say, well, Colleen, how did you come up with that square footage? We think it's wrong. I want to be able to pull up that municipality record and say, well, this is what the city actually says about it. So again, I usually just will go in and I will save it as a PDF, and that way I can pull it into my Cloud CMA. All right, so now we know for sure both records say that the square footage is 1361. So now I can actually go back in and start again putting in that crucial information to find those right comps. So if I'm looking at above ground square footage and I'm trying to figure out that 20%, all you're really doing is you're taking that 1361 times the 20%. And so I know that it's about 272 square feet. So I'm going to take that 1361 and I'm going to add 270 onto it. And so my max range I'm really going to, it's about 1600. And I'm going to say, just for the sake of time to not have to figure it out, 1100 to, or actually this would be 1200 to 1600. That's going to be my 20% square footage rule. So it just kind of gives you a ballpark. And again, if you're doing this in a rural area, sometimes you have to play with these numbers and expand them a little bit, but it's a good starting point. Excuse me. I generally do not include features when I'm doing a CMA, because features, most features are actually, they're not required. They're actually just a feature or an option. So if you're saying, well, I have a fireplace in this home, I want to find comps with a fireplace only, and the agent never bothered to check it off because it's not required, well, you might lose a valuable comp. So I generally don't ever include features when I'm looking for comps. You could if you have some, special criteria for that home. I just find that it generally limits my comps, and I don't want to do that, especially in this market. All right, so you're probably thinking, well, Colleen, you've put in information, but you've got 14,000 comps, and you're right, we certainly don't want to do a CMA with 14,000 comps. Now we want to hone it down to exactly where that home is actually located. And generally, you're going to try to be within 1 mile, because that's what an appraiser is going to do. You're going to try to find your comps within 1 mile. Now, sometimes, I had a very nice lady call me last week, and she's like, Colleen, I did the 1 mile, but it's kind of on the border between 2 cities. Well, of course, you want to stay in the same city. Preferably, if you can, you'd like to stay in the same school district. So those are all additional pieces that you can dwindle your comps down by. But in this case, I want to do exactly what an appraiser is going to do. I want to stay within 1 mile. So the best way to do that is to go to the search by map in Paragon. So once I click on the search by map, now here's the key. So this kind of will always open, this map will open to your office location unless you've set your default to be something else. So here's my office in Rochester. Now, but I want to actually hone this into my subject property. So I'm going to go up to that box here where I'm going to enter the address and comma the city. Now, less is best here. So this happens to be Wessel Drive. Leave off the drives, the ways, the circles, the places, because it uses Google Maps. So the less information you put in, the better off you're going to be. So I'm going to do 41539 Wessel instead of Wessel Drive. And I'm also going to do comma the city, because it's a nationwide program. You don't want to end up in like Iowa somewhere trying to figure out where is this house. So you want to just put in the route street name and then comma the city. And it's 2 steps. This is where people get a little confused. So the first step is you want to find that location on the map. Okay, so here's my location, here's my subject property. The next thing I want to do is I want to go in and put in my 1 mile radius search. So I want to say, okay, I want to find my comps within 1 mile of that. I'm going to click on the search radius. I'm going to just kind of show you what happens here. I'm going to bring this down a little so you can kind of see it. Basically, what it just did is it drew a 1 mile circle using, the radius of where that subject property is. So from here, you kind of see all these little clusters. And at first when I looked at that, I thought, what are those? Well, there's actually 2 listings that are very close to one another. So what they do is they kind of cluster them because, the flags can get kind of hard to navigate. If you just zoom in, it'll allow you to simply click on that one particular flag. If you wanted to see both of them without having to zoom in, you could just click on that circle and it will go ahead and it will still pull those up for you. So it's kind of just personal preference, what's easiest for you. So from here, I can now see my comps. It's adding in my criteria, so I'm only seeing what I filtered down to. But, sometimes you will, let's say you're looking at this particular, 1 mile radius, and let's say it's waterfront. And we're going to use Chris Nixon, who's on our call today. We're going to say that Chris has these $2 million really fancy listings on the water. But we've, of course, got this little brick ranch that's far off the water, and these $2 million properties are going to really screw up our CMA numbers. So we really don't want to include those. So here's your next little trick. You can actually draw a shape on your shape. So if you've done a 1 or 2 mile radius and you want to exclude those waterfront listings, all you want to do is you want to go to the draw tool. I use the polygon because I think it's just the easiest. And I'm going to say, okay, I want to take anything out, even though Chris has these great listings over here. I don't want them to screw up my CMA numbers. So I'm basically drawing a shape on a shape. And as you can see, nothing's changed yet, right? But if we go to edit and we click from include to exclude. Now, by the way, you can change this. If I wanted to click on it and make the shape a little bigger or smaller, you can do that. But basically what I want to do is I want to change it from including those $1 million waterfront listings that Chris has to excluding them. Now I don't have to go in and remove, 10 or 15 comps that would radically screw up my numbers. Okay, so remember, you can always exclude a particular area, or if you have a subdivision. I had this not that long ago. I did my 1 mile radius, and half of the subdivision was little cute brick ranches that were built in the I think it was 1940 or 1950. The other half was all brand new construction. Now, obviously, if I'm going to list a new construction home, I do not want to include all of those, 1940 homes, right? It's going to radically mess up my numbers. So you can always draw a shape on a shape and exclude it too. And there are other things that you can do in here. If you wanted to see, is this by the floodplain over here? You can actually click on the layers and you can see it by school district. You can actually see, does this fall in the floodplain? If I kind of move this out, you can see that it's now adding in floodplain information. So don't forget, those layers are really helpful too. If you're trying to keep it within a particular city, as I mentioned, or a particular school district, that's where that layers button right up here at the top becomes really helpful. And if you joined us a little bit late, remember you can ask questions by simply typing them in the question box in your GoToWebinar panel. All right, another little trick is if you've never been to the home and you kind of wanted to see the neighborhood, like in this particular area, there are some subdivisions that have a lot of quads and tri-levels, and I kind of want to see the sub. Is this maybe one of those? I kind of want to feel it out to let my clients know, and I don't want to drive an hour away from where I am to actually see the neighborhood. That's where this little yellow Google man over here, and you probably used him if you use Google Maps, but just to kind of bring him into our demonstration today, if you just drag that yellow man in front of your subject property, you can actually see the subject property, and you can see the house to the left, the house to the right. So as you can see, I'm actually in the subdivision. I can see, oh yeah, these are little, traditional brick ranches. I can literally walk down the street. I can find our subject property, which I think happens to be right here. And I can basically tour the entire subdivision or neighborhood. And I can see, oh yeah, this is just a cute little brick ranch subdivision. And if you lay it right in front of your subject property, it'll even put the flag there, so you know which property is the one that you're listing. So you can see this is the one that we're listing right over here where that flag is. But it allows you again to see the property to the left and to the right, so you can kind of view the neighborhood even before you've driven over to that listing appointment. All right. So as you can see, we've started bringing in our comps. Now I want to kind of narrow them down. Obviously, the more criteria you put in, the less comps you're going to have. One of the recent changes that was made I think it's been about a year now, is that you can bounce back and forth, because many times I'd get all the way to the map and I'd go, oh, geez, I forgot to take out all those leases. Now I got to start over. Well, you can bounce back between these three tabs right here. So if I want to go back, if I've forgotten something or I need to adjust my criteria because I didn't have any comps, you can just click on criteria and you can now jump back and forth to the map, to the criteria, and then finally run our search. Okay, so once you've got your results, that's really the hardest part about doing your CMA. Now, I have a little OCD, so all of my friends know and laugh with me because I like things in a particular order. I like all my actives to be with actives, pending to be with pending, and closed. As you can see, there are no actives currently here, but I like everything to kind of be organized. We only have one pending, and everything else is closed. Right up here at the top, I can kind of also see a mini breakdown of what's going on in that neighborhood. Now, really, if I were to do this, I would have put in enough criteria that I probably would have gotten 5 to 8 comps. That's really what I shoot for. 3 to 5 is generally what I get, but 5 to 8 is what you kind of want to shoot for, because not all comps are going to be perfect. But really, the more information that you're putting in, the better your CMA is going to look and the closer your comps are going to be. So just for the sake of time here today, now obviously as the trusted agent, we really do want to go in and we want to compare apples to apples. If you know that the house was built in 1970, you might want to put in, 1970 to 1985, or you might want to even hone it down a little bit further than I did. Acreage is another way to hone down, but I'm just going to grab a couple of these just for the sake of time here. We're going to grab these 5. Now, again, because I have a little OCD, I hate in Paragon that I'm grabbing 5, but I still have to see 22, right? That always irritates me. So I just go up to the checked box. Now I'm only working with those particular properties that I have selected. I don't have to see all that other garbage I didn't want. And remember, if there's something important to you, like school district, that's a big one. I always try to keep my comps in the same school district. So you can actually move those columns to the left or to the right. Once you do that, it saves it in your preferences. The last thing I want to have to do is always scroll way down here, which is where it actually ends up the first time you open Paragon. I don't want to have to do that every single time. Maybe a square footage is important on this. We can move that column to the front, asking price, whatever it happens to be. And that way it's now going to save that as my preferences, and it always shows up. I don't have to scroll over every single time. So the hardest part is done. The hardest part is really going in and getting your comps. Now you want to look for the easy button. The easy button for Cloud CMA is right under Actions. Okay, but before we jump there, I just want to show you one real quick thing. If you're not looking for the big fancy presentation, let's say, you know what, you're listing your brother's house. He already told you you're going to list it. He just wants to see the comps. He doesn't need the fancy wow, bells and whistles kind of thing. Well, then you can go over to Reports. My GoToWebinar panel here. You can go over to Reports on the right side, and you can go to CMA. There's a CMA folder here. If you just wanted to do a quick view, so you're just listing your brother's house, he's already going to list with you, you don't need the fancy wows, you just want to basically show him a couple of comps and, you know, things like what is the price per square foot? How long is it taking to sell? Those types of things. You can do that right under Reports without having to do anything else. Now, if there's a particular field that doesn't show up, let's say that you are looking at acreage and acreage isn't here, you can always customize the fields that you want to show in this report. So price per square foot, acreage, you know, a school district, things like that. Whatever's not there, if there's something that's not there that you want to stack up next to your listing, you can simply click on Customize and Fields, and you can add it. All you have to do is find that item and click Add, and then you can move it right anywhere in, you can drag and drop it anywhere in that report, so it's right where you want it to be. If there's something there you don't want to show up, something you want to remove, you can do that as well. All right, so keep in mind you can customize how you want that to look. Now let's say you want to know personally, maybe you're doing some investment homes and you don't even need the comps, you just want to see the numbers for yourself. Then you can also go to Reports, and there is a CMA Summary. That CMA Summary will literally just break the numbers down for you. Here's the average asking, here's the average sold, here's the average square footage, here's bedrooms, bathroom, and it's just basically doing a kind of an agent view of the numbers. So again, if you're looking for yourself or you just want to know a particular value before they call you back, this is a great way to do that. All right, so hopefully that helped. Again, the CMA Summary will allow you to break down the numbers, and the quick view will allow you to just stack those comps next to each other. But I really, even if I was going, I don't have a brother, but even if I was going to list my brother, I probably would still use Cloud. It just makes a very wowing presentation, and it really breaks it down so that the seller knows exactly what's going on in their neighborhood, what's going on in their marketplace, and we give them a really good look at what the actual price should be. So I'm going to go up to Actions, which, as I mentioned, is kind of like your easy button. And there's two options for Cloud. Cloud has a buyer tour. If you're showing a bunch of buyers' houses, you can use the buyer tour. But if you are just doing a CMA like we're doing today, we're just going to click on Cloud CMA, the CMA. That's going to take all the hard work that you just did in Paragon, and it's going to bring it over into Cloud for you. And what used to happen many, many years ago is I'd have to go down here and I'd have to type in all of these numbers, and with my fat fingers, it didn't work so well. And a lot of times I wouldn't find all of the comps. It was very aggravating. Now, because of our data sharing, we have data sharing with 97% of the state now, you can actually pull all of those over by just simply clicking that one button. It does all that for you. So all these ML numbers that you see here, I don't have to type those in, it's automatically pulling it. All I have to do as the agent is name my report. So we're going to call this Sally Seller. You could put in private messages like, you know, referral. And then you want to type in your subject address. Now, the cool thing is, this does something for you it didn't used to do, but now when you start typing in that subject property address, it will actually pull up the tax records, and it will start auto-filling. As you can see, it just filled in how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what's the square footage, and it will start auto-filling that information right from the tax record. Now, I do not recommend the quick and dirty down here. A lot of people that I talk to have tried it. Pretty much it's always the same thing. They always say it's not very good. It's really a great tool for something I'm going to show you in the future, but it's not something you want to do when you're doing an actual CMA. So I tell people don't use the quick and dirty. It has a purpose, which I'm going to show you when we get into lead generation. But it's really not something we want to do as agents. We want to be a lot more thorough, and we want to be able to tell the story of what their home is actually worth. Now, remember how I said that if you've never been there before and you want to make a really nice wowing presentation, just grab that photo from the BS&A record. Well, this is where you would actually grab it. So we would say, I think I called it front photo. We would grab that front photo and we can actually crop it here. So if I want to take the date out, I can do that. But the idea is that I'm actually grabbing that photo. It's going to make a nice presentation for me. And I didn't have to drive there. I just literally pulled it from the BS&A record. Okay, that's really the hardest part. The next thing is really just following the 4 tabs along the top. Which I'm going to show you. Let me give you a little better view here. So the 4 tabs along the top are criteria, listings, customize, and publish really just means saving. If you make a change to a person's name or the address or something like that, you just have to remember to republish it. It's kind of like your save button. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go into the listings. So we're going to click this green button right over here. It's going to take all the information from the MLS and it's going to load it into my CMA. Now, what you're looking at now is basically kind of a summary of what you've actually pulled in as the agent. Okay, so this is our summary page, if you will. You can move your map around, you can zoom in, you can zoom out, but basically what it's showing us is these are the ones that it pulled in from the MLS. Now, if I'm looking at this and I say, oh man, I didn't mean to grab that 286, that's a much more newer construction home than mine, and I want to not use that comp. I don't have to start over. I just want to deselect that particular comp. You can also drag and drop these into any order you want. I remember my very first listing appointment, my broker, he said, Colleen, you got to get that price down, got to get that price down. So I had like these extremely low comps right in the beginning. I almost didn't get to show the other comps. So sometimes it's also putting them in the right order, right? So you can actually drag and drop them into any order you choose. A few things too is if you wanted to see more information about that listing to decide is that one you want to use as a comp, you can click on details and adjustments and you can go in and you can add notes. I actually go into the description. A lot of times I will put note, home had detached garage. All the rest of the comps had attached garages, things like that. So you can actually do that right under the description. You can also add positive and negative values for adjustments. Now, I wish I was that person like Joanna Gaines, who could walk into a kitchen and say, okay, if you just knock this out and we do these 5 things, it's going to bring you, X amount of value. I am not that person, unfortunately. But we do have, through Paragon, there is a single sign-on to RPR. And RPR is the Realtor Property Resource. I will show you where you can find that. Oop, I need to pull that up. So the Realtor Property Resource is basically, is basically going to give you a place that you can do those types of valuations. I don't know if you've ever used it before, but if you go into Paragon and you go under Resources, you will find a link that will take you to RPR. And RPR is not something you really get through the MLS. It's something you get as a realtor benefit. So for all those dues that you pay, they created kind of a database which allows you to go in and access things like home improvement values. Now, I always tell people a lot more investors are actually using this information when they're looking at flips and things like that. I really like it if you have a home that's a little bit difficult to comp out because maybe it doesn't have a garage and all the others in the neighborhood have a garage. But this is kind of how it works. When you log into RPR, you simply enter an address. So we'll use our Wessel here. and it does quick fill for you. So I'm going to click on it. And then basically it asks you, the agent, a series of questions, and it's called the refined value model. This is also another great place to get photos of that particular home, but I'm going to click on the refined value. And what it does is it asks you, the agent, a series of questions. And then when you answer it, it takes where that home is located, and it then comes up with a positive or negative value for you that you can use in your CMA. Now, obviously, let's say we'll use an example like that this homeowner just redid their kitchen. So what happens generally, you walk in, they say, well, we just put 50 grand into our kitchen. We think we should get an extra 150 out of our house for it, right? They're always a little unrealistic when it comes to those renovations. So sometimes it's not telling them or hurting their feelings. It's showing them on paper that maybe that value isn't as high as they thought. So what happens when we click on that refined value, it will ask you, okay, well, what did they actually do? So I'm going to go to the home improvement category here, and I'm going to say that they did a kitchen remodel, and they did an upscale kitchen remodel. It'll kind of give you some examples of what that might look like. Obviously, the older that the repair is, or the older the remodel is, the less it's worth. So I'm going to say that they did this in 2019. And I'm going to say that the total cost was $25,000 that they spent. Now, obviously, if we did a major kitchen upgrade in California, it's going to be worth a whole lot more than generally it's going to be worth here. So it actually zones in on where that home is, and then it comes up with that model, with that valuation. So I'm going to say, okay, what is that actually worth? So I know you think, Mr. Homeowner, that it's worth $150,000 because you put 25 into your kitchen, but actually what our information tells us is that that information is really going to bring you about $12,500 as an improvement. So really, it's a great way to not be the bad guy, and you can print this off. You can also add this to your CMA. The idea is now I'm not the bad guy. I'm not giving my opinion. What I'm giving you is a fact. And it's NAR has published this. Investors are using it more and more, just so that you can kind of have something to base that information off. Again, if it doesn't have a garage, if it doesn't have, let's say it only has one bathroom instead of two, it's a good way to kind of gauge that and include that in your CMA. So hopefully that helps a little bit. All right, so going back to our CMA, I can, again, put a positive or negative adjustment value in here. So I could say that we added on 5,000 because they did that home improvement, or negative 5,000. Because they didn't have a garage, whatever that happens to be. You can also include a price range. So up here at the top, you can say, I think it's worth X, or you can say, my price range that I would give you is 240 to, let's say 255. So you can actually put the price range in. And that way, if you haven't seen the property, it gives you a little wiggle room. This particular property on Wessel Drive, I use this one a lot because, as you can see, it's a really cute house from the outside. Unfortunately, when I walked into this home, it had blue shag carpeting. I kid you not, like Grover blue. And it had those huge stick-on wallflowers over all the walls, like from the Brady Bunch. I don't know if you remember that, but big stick-on wallflowers. So sometimes if you haven't been in the listing before, sometimes you do want to give yourself a little wiggle room in case it needs some updating. All right, so again, you can actually do a net sheet, or you can do that price range. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't do the net sheets in here. I think they're a little bit more work. I do mine in Transaction Desk because it auto calculates everything for me. It's just much easier, but you could do a net sheet here if you wanted to. I just think it's a little bit more work doing it here. All right, so again, we've now brought over our listings. There's really nothing you need to do on this particular page. So if you left this page completely blank, that's totally fine. All it's really showing you is these are the comps that you've selected. Here's the information about the comps that you've selected. Now we want to just go to customizing our report. Customizing your report is really just saying, what do you want your report to look like? Do you want it to be long? Do you want it to be short? Do you want all your, client testimonials in here? What do you want to add? And how it works is basically everything under the My CMA report is what's going to show up. So that's going to be in your report. If you wanted to remove a particular item, all you're going to do is click the minus next to it, and it's going to pull it out of your CMA report. If there's something you wanted to add, like let's say you have a team and you have a team marketing plan that you want to include in your CMAs, you can actually click on the plus and it's going to float right into your CMA. Usually puts it right at the bottom. So if I scroll down, and again, you can drag and drop these as well. If you're not sure what a particular page is, you can also click on the little I next to the name of the page, and it will show you a preview of what that page actually is. Because a lot of times you wouldn't know what is the staging your home page. Oh, if you click on it, I can see, is that something I want or is that something I want to remove? So I think when out of the box, it gives you most everything. You certainly don't want to go to someone's house with a 90-page CMA, especially if you're printing it out. So you can always click on the minus next to the left side of the document, and you can pull it in or out very easily. Now, one of the things, as I mentioned, I like to include the BS&A records. I like to include those custom pages, and I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Once you have custom pages in Cloud, I'll show you one that I actually that I use quite often. Every time I would go sit down with a seller, they would always ask me the same question. Well, Colleen, are you going to put my home on Zillow? Is it going to be on Realtor.com? I got so tired of answering that question that I just created something that had all of the top sites. I basically took the big ones and I used their icons. And I said, actually, you're going to appear on over 400 different sites because that's how many my broker syndicates to. These are the top ones. And that way I was addressing that objection right in my CMA. I didn't have to wait for them to ask the question. It was like the third page of my CMA, so we could cover it at that time. Again, if there's outstanding utility bills, things like that, that's a great thing to add in here too, so that you can show them right as you're going through your CMA. All right, so the most important thing about your CMA is making sure you've got your company look and obviously your marketing matches. If you are with Real Estate One or if you are with RE/MAX, they have this luxury package that they purchase for you to use, and it's got like the RE/MAX balloon and a bunch of really nice color brochures that you can include in here. If you're with Real Estate One, they've got some great information about who they are and their footprint in Michigan. And anyway, long story short, you want to make sure you're on the right company theme. Sorry, excuse me, I'm suffering from a little cold. So under theme, this is where you want to make sure that you're going in with the right look. Obviously, if you're with Century 21, you don't want to show up with the RE/MAX balloon, right? So you want to make sure that you're choosing the theme that matches your company colors. The layout is just how do you want your comps prepared? Now, I personally like the photo with the max data because it brings the photo of the home and all the interior photos if you want, but it gives you MLS information, the notes, and all of the details. So this is kind of my favorite, but if you want a shorter report, let's say you're going to print it instead of just show it on your laptop, you can actually choose to stack the properties up against each other, and then it's kind of a shorter report. You don't have to print as many pages. All right, and then I do not recommend changing the fonts. Here's what happens. Because we have such a high character amount in the agent remarks and the public remarks, if you change the font, it kind of screws up the settings on some of the pages. So I'm not a big fan of that. So just leave your default font and you'll always be good. Matter of fact, not that long ago, I got a call from Flo Abke and her numbers were kind of all over the place when they were looking at comps. And the reason was the font was changed. So if you leave that font as the default, that's always the best. And then you can also save templates. So maybe you have a CMA that you've done that's very short and sweet, and you want to save that and call it, Chris's short and sweet template. As you can see, I did a Colleen's short CMA package. I did a long CMA package. So you can actually save templates. So if you've got it set up just the way you want, you can actually create different reports. The nice thing about Cloud is once you take the time to customize it though, it's that way unless you change it. So the nice thing is once you take 5 minutes and go through, set up your colors, set up your layout, get it just the way you want, then it's good from there going forward unless you ever want to change it. And then lastly, all you need to do is publish that report. That's basically your save. And in about 30 seconds, it's going to create that report and allow you to go through it. You can, again, email it out. You can view it. I'm going to show you how to bring in those custom pages too in just a moment. But let's say we now want to view that PDF. Just click on it. And I generally save these right to my computer because I don't like to print a lot these days. So you can actually save it as a PDF and you can actually just show it to that seller. A little information about my company, little information about what a CMA is, my contact me page, comparables, the comparables that I'm going to be showing them. And as you can see, I chose the photo with max data, and that allows me to show them the interior photos. Again, if you are printing it, you might not want to include all the photos because you can put up to 99 in the MLS. That's a lot of printing. But if he says, well, does Joe Schmagegi over there on Corbin, does he have a finished basement? I have a finished basement. I can actually go through those interior photos with him and I can say, well, actually, it looks like he does. So it just gives me a little bit more information, or in this case, it looks like he doesn't. So it just gives me a little bit more information to go by. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. The other thing within Cloud is adding those custom pages. And I think that's really an important part. Otherwise, we all could show up with the exact same Cloud CMA, right? What really impresses the homeowner is all those extra things that you're including, like what's going on in their market, their BS&A record, their realist, when it's sold last, what they got for it. It's adding in those outside documents. So let's do that next. To add in those custom pages or adding in those outside documents, what you're going to do is you're going to log into Cloud. And by the way, if you've never logged into Cloud before, you just go to Resources and you're going to find Cloud CMA under Resources. Really think of Resources as your toolbox, if you will. That's where all the tools that you have are going to show up. So think of Resources as, oh, if I'm going into Cloud CMA, I'm going to go in through Resources. When I'm ready to add my custom pages, I'm going to find my little avatar or photo at the top of my Cloud CMA account. And you're going to see custom pages, really not hard. You click on custom pages, and what they do is they give you a few that they already have that you can kind of copy and paste your information into. Like if you wanted to do a, let's say, agent resume. If I wanted to put my agent resume together, I could click on the pencil icon, and I could literally copy and paste my resume. You can put in links, you can add photos. So basically you're just copying and pasting. I did my company page that way. I just went to our website, copied and pasted, and now every time I do a CMA, my company information is right there. Let me show you that one. So that's under our company. If you click on that pencil icon, again, copy and paste, and then just remember to save it. And you can have that set up in your CMAs from there going forward. If you wanted to bring in those outside documents though, so as I mentioned, I do all of my net sheets in Transaction Desk. So I actually pull it right in from Transaction Desk and I include that in my CMAs. And as I mentioned, it's nice because it actually auto calculates everything for you. But that's a custom page that I really like having. The BS&A records, market conditions, those are all custom pages I like to bring in. So to bring those in, it's a pretty quick and painless process. I'm gonna go down, as you can see, I've got quite a few of them here. So at the bottom, maybe my stupid GoToWebinar panel here. At the bottom, you will have upload a PDF. All you're gonna do is click on the upload button and then find what you named that custom page. I called mine CMA example, and then you're going to hit open, and it's going to upload that page so that you can use it in your CMAs. Really easy to do. Again, I recommend doing this particularly with market stats, BSNA, and the real list record. That way, when I'm doing my CMA, all I have to do is pull that custom page in. Oh, looks like we have a question. Would you be willing to send me the CMA report you've created? Absolutely, absolutely, Angela. I would be happy to. Are you talking about the like an example of the CMA, or are you talking about the sites one? I can take my logo off and send you the sites one if that's what you're looking for, or I'd be more than happy to send the CMA that we did so that you can kind of see some great examples of custom pages if that's what you mean. Just let me know if you want the sites or the actual whole CMA. All right, and again, if you have any questions, please do what Angela did. Just type them right in that questions panel in your GoToWebinar box, and we can go ahead and address them so that we can quickly get them answered for you. All right, so custom pages, as I mentioned, bring them in, really easy to do. One example that I really like, and I don't know, it's really not 100% this class, but I do it for every CMA that I do, and it's market stats. I don't know if you've ever seen market stats before, but as I mentioned, in your toolbox within Paragon, you have all these great tools. I love the market stats because it's super easy to show a seller what's going on in their neighborhood. So I go to social media and lead gen here, and it says market stats. Watch how cool. This is one of my favorite tools. If you go right up here to the fast stats, all you have to do is click on the city. So that it's really that easy to show that homeowner what's going on. So let's pretend for a moment you're listing a home in, we'll use Macomb Township. You're going to click on Macomb Township, and just that easy, and this is a really good example one to use too. Just that easy, I created the yearly stat numbers for that homeowner. So last October 2020, there were 171 homes on the market. This year, there's only 106. So we're down about 70 listings, right? We're down almost 40%, so 38% here. But look what it did to our average sales price. It took the average sales price for that city from $358 to $408. So now you're looking at a almost 50 grand increase over a year. I mean, that's incredible. Now we're going down to condos, right? It breaks condos down separately. Kind of the same story. The condo market in Macomb Township is down almost 65%. Crazy numbers. Our average sales price went up $30,000 in the condo market from 1 year. So, I mean, really cool when you can include these right in your CMA. And you can see I did it with simply one click. So again, just to kind of recap, all you're doing is you're going into the Fast Stats program. You're going to find the city that you're listing in. So we'll use Washington Township this time. I'm going to click on Washington Township. Very easily, you can see Washington Township right now is down about almost 51% in market inventory, and our average sales price went from $422 last year to $497 this year. So what I recommend is saving this, pulling it into your custom pages in your CMA. This is a great way to tell the homeowner why you may want to put them on the top end of the price range, or if the market shifts, why they need to go on the bottom end of the price range. So it's a really good tool to use and help homeowners educate themselves very quickly on why they should be looking at that particular price you're recommending. All right, so I think we have another question that just popped in here. To the one, I was referring to the one that you are creating now, but I would appreciate, sure, I will absolutely send those out. So Kathy has a question. How did you get to the market stats program? Great, I will show you. Again, market stats is just a fast, easy way. I include it on every CMA that I do. But to get there, you're going to go into Paragon. You're going to go to resources up here. You're going to click on market stats, which is under social media and lead gen. I like the fast stats. Now you can do, there's a lot of social media tools and market stats too. We have a whole class on that. But what I like just for the CMAs is to just go to the fast stats up here at the top. It's just the quick, easy. It's like 2 clicks to create your report. Then you're going to pick the county that you want to do the stats for. And again, if I wanted to do Macomb Township, I'd click Macomb Township. And it's that easy. And then what I would do is download this or save it to my computer and then pull that directly into your CMA. All right, so hopefully that answered your question, Kathy. If you needed something else, just let me know. But hopefully that kind of gave you exactly where to go. All right. And yes, someone else asked if I would share the CMA that we just created for the examples. Absolutely. Matter of fact, I'll send it out to everybody after the webinar. And remember, we're recording this too, so you can watch this exact class anytime you want. All right, so as I mentioned, Cloud does a lot of other things too. So it has a great flyer tool inside of it. Let me pull it back up here so you can see it. Cloud, not only does it do CMAs with that easy button that I showed you in Paragon, but if you wanted to do quick and easy property flyers, you can do those as well. If you click on flyer, I'll show you one I did for my West Point here. And they're really easy to do. Basically, you're putting in an ML number and it's creating, and you can choose from a couple different templates, but really easy to do. You're just creating, it's grabbing the images right from the MLS and the description from the MLS. You can edit them. So if there's something, if you don't want your price on your flyer, you can go ahead and change that too. There's also the buyer tour, which will, if you're showing properties, create kind of a little place that they can jot down notes, and it will show them in the order they're going to be seeing the home. So there's a bunch of stuff there. You can also, there's property detailed reports that you can do in here. Here was a good one that I did. It kind of creates a 7-page report on the property. So this is one they were looking for, Marshall Lane, and it gives information about me, who I work for. Blow this up a little so you can see it a little nicer. And it will give them area restaurants. It will give them golf courses if you want to include those. It'll give them all the property photos. So you can actually create actual property detail reports. So it does some pretty cool things. However, the one other piece I want to show you in Cloud is the lead generation piece, because I think right now what we need everybody to do is go get more listings, right? That's the name of the game right now. So if I go into my Cloud CMA account, if I want to use their lead generation tool, I'm going to go up to my photo again, kind of where we keep revisiting where the custom pages are. But right under custom pages is the lead generation tool. Now let me kind of show you what this is, and I'll show you a way that you can use this, and I've had really good success with it. Basically, the lead generation tool is what they refer to as a squeeze page. And a squeeze page is, it's great to give information out, but really the idea is, how do you get the lead back? So it's great to say, okay, this is what's going on in Sterling Heights today, but how do you get the lead returned back to you? You know, it's great to give information, but really it's, what are you getting back? So basically this squeeze or landing page allows you to post out onto social media, and they can put their address in. They feel like they're just going to get a price sent to them, but really what happens is it sends them your contact information, and behind the scenes, it's sending you their information. So here's kind of what it looks like. If you click on view your landing page, and it's automatically done for you, there's nothing you have to do. This is already built in the program, but this shows me what they're going to see when I share it out onto social media. So what I generally do is, so I go to my lead generation page here, and then I copy the link. I'll show you a little trick here. So once that lead or squeeze page comes up, it basically is just a link, and that link is going to ask them to just enter their address, and it will send them information. Now, it's not going to send them a number. That's what they need us for, right? What it's designed to do is capture information for you. It will send them a few random comps along with any custom information you have in Cloud CMA. So what I do is I copy the link, and then you can post that right into social media. But what I like to do is I kind of like to take it a step further. I usually like to tie it in with giving them some information. So I will actually show you what I mean. I'm going to go into my Facebook page here. I'll show you some examples that I've done. If you have a business page on social media, that's a really great way to go to my business page. It is a really great way to basically put that information out there and then capture the lead going back. So I'm going to jump over to here. I think I did one not that long ago. I can show you pretty quickly. Go. And I apologize for all the stuffy nose sounds. I'm getting over a little cold, so I'll do that right now. I want to connect my WhatsApp app. All right. Looks like it's going to make me. Maybe I won't be able to show you this. All right, here we go. So down here, what I like to do is, again, if I'm putting that information out, I want to be able to pull that lead back. I think I did one a few months back, I can show you. And basically, I used the market stats that I showed you, and I tied it in with returning the lead with Cloud CMA. I can get to it. Thought it was up toward the top, but maybe not. I don't post a ton on my business page, but guess I'll have to create a new one just so you can see it quickly. But all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that capture, that lead capture that I showed you, that squeeze page, if you will, and I'm going to link it to information that I can put out onto social media, and I'm going to give them information, and in return, I want to get their information back. So what I would do is I would do a story. Right now, the story I would want is I want new listings, right? So I would say I want to pick price per square foot. What sellers are actually getting price per square foot? And I probably would want to hone in on the areas I want the listings. So let's say I'm looking for Sterling Heights. I'm looking for, maybe we'll say Macomb. And I'm basically just kind of picking the areas that I want to hone in and get some new listings. I'm going to look for the average price per square foot because I want to post this out onto social media. And really, I'm not a huge line graph person. I kind of like the bar graph. It's a little easier for the consumer to see. Of course, I can change the time frames. But basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a story of why they should sell now when, 3 years ago they could get $133 a square foot. Now we can get $170 a square foot. That's a really good story to get them off the fence and get them listed, right? So I am going in and I'm hitting my share button, and I want to share it to social media. Now you could share it locked, or you could share it live. So if they click on it a month from now, it will be updated. So I usually just leave it locked or static, and I want to share it out onto social media. Okay, and I'm going to click View in Window, and here's what it's going to actually share on Facebook for me. Now I'm going to write my call to action. Why do I want them to get this information? So I'm going to click, I want to share this on Facebook. It's creating this great graph for me on Facebook, and I'm going to put my call to action right up here. Never been a better time to sell. Yada, yada. And then obviously you can put your phone number, whatever else you want to say. Then I would say something like, want to know what your home is worth? Click the link below. Once I do that, now I want to insert the link for my page. Remember I told you we're going to capture their information. So all I'm really doing is I'm now posting that homeowners are getting record prices for their home. Do you want to know what your home is worth? Just click on the link. Once I post that out to Facebook, it's going to allow them to simply put in their address, which it sends to you, the agent, via email right away. So it's a great way to not only get information out there, but it's a great way for you to capture their property address. So I'm going to go back to it here. Let me refresh my page so I can kind of show you what it looks like. But the idea is not only are you sharing great market information with them, but now they're putting in their address. If I click here, that's going to open up that squeeze page. And they're going to enter, oh yeah, I want to know what my home is worth. They're entering their address. It does quick fill for them. Once they click on the magnifying glass, it will say, okay, well, we found your house. It's showing them the map right here. They're going to put in a name, and they have to also put in an actual email address because it's going to email them their report. Once they click email my report, it's just sent it to you, the agent, so you can reach out to them and then do a proper CMA. What they just got behind the scenes is they just got your resume, a little contact information on you, and 3 to 5 random comps in that area. That's kind of what the quick and dirty does. Kind of just randomly goes and grabs those comps. It's not set to give them an actual number. That's what they need you, the agent, for. By the way, once the report is sent to them, it will also pop up a little screen that says, hey, give Colleen a call. Here's her email address. Here's her phone number. And she can do an even more professional valuation of your home. So really, it's just designed to push information out there and capture the lead and send it back to you too. All right. Okay. Oh, good, Kathy. I'm glad that that helped. Okay, would you kindly show us how to create the link to capture the lead in lead gen? Well, I kind of tried to do that, but let me show you again. So you're going to start off by going to Cloud CMA. You're on your lead generation, which you found under your avatar or your picture over here. You're going to copy the link. Now, if you just wanted to post the link, you could do that. So if you don't want to do the whole market stats piece that I showed you and you just wanted to post the link in Facebook, you could do that too. It's just personal preference. So if I go to Facebook and I just want to say, hey, call me today because the market is extremely hot, just enter your address in the link below, you could do that. So basically, you just copy that link here, and that is going to show you what's my home worth. They can click right in and add their address. I usually like to give them a reason to click, like, wow, it's really hot. Look what's going on in your neighborhood. And then now you can even boost these posts for, $3 to $5. You can actually send it to a bunch of people in Sterling Heights or where you're trying to pick up listings. So I hope I say this name correctly. Naharia, I'm not sure I'm saying it correctly. I apologize if I'm not. Naharia, did that answer your question? Got it. Okay, perfect. Great. Just wanted to make sure. All right, so I know I talked your ear off. You're probably thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to remember all that? Well, remember, you don't have to remember it all. The good news is we recorded this class today. And so you're going to be able to watch it whenever you need it. So if you are looking at the lead gen piece and you don't do it for a month or two, you can actually go back and I will send the link out to everybody. But basically, it's our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and you type in My Real Source Media, you will find all of our classes, and you can actually click on the playlist and find this particular class. I should have it uploaded by this evening. So if you go to, again, YouTube, and it's My Real Source Media, get there and I'll show you what it looks like. And you can watch any of our classes. We try to record all of our classes with the exception of Roadmap and the Photos class. Everything else is recorded. But basically, This is our YouTube channel. If you click on playlist here, by the way, if you just go there now and you hit subscribe, it'll tell you when the class is uploaded tonight. Just a little tip. But it's our My Real Source Media right on YouTube. If you click on playlist, it'll show you all of the CMA classes. It'll show you Realist classes, Paragon classes, Showing Time classes, all of those Transaction Desk, the new Authenticine classes. All you have to do is click on the playlist, click on the class that you're interested in, and it will start to play for you. So hopefully that took you in to the world of CMAs. Hopefully I didn't lose you. I know I threw in a few extra things today, like market stats and the RPR link. If you do have any questions, now would be a great time to type them in. But remember, the hardest part of doing your CMA is really just finding your comps in Paragon. Once you find those comps, your takeaway is use that action button, click on Cloud CMA, and it will take every comp that you've selected right over into your CMA so that you can do that wowing presentation. All right, if we don't have any questions, I think I covered them. Oh, good, thank you, Angela, for saying that. Thank you for the kind words. Hopefully I didn't lose you. I know we did sort of cover a lot today, but go list some properties. We need the inventory, so go list. Happy selling, everybody. Have a great day.